Can you please look up this thing?
See if we can figure out something.
Hi. I'm sorry I'm late. Okay, 2 devices connected. Where did I put the other? I left the house with my earphones in and I didn't take their little case. And so I'm trying to figure out. There we go. They went to sleep. Okay. Breathe. We're good. We're not that late. Little late, not that late. How was everyone's weekends? Was it good? Are you ready to go back to 75,000 hours of cricket bats and thriller and squitter and all of that? I'm just busy removing watch history because when I was driving, I was skipping on the car thing. And for some bizarre reason, it went into an infinite loop of really boring stuff. And I don't want that in my watch history because it's going to think I want to watch really boring stuff. What I do want to show you, though, is I was catching up on Judge Simpson. Okay. Okay. No worries, Evie. No worries at all. Get that bag, girl. Get that bag. Right. I went back a little far.
Up to August 22nd, 2024. 9 a.m. Bond will continue. There's not the possibility of a Veterans Court resolution to this?
We've discussed, I was speaking with Ms. Pearney on it as well, but some possibility of either veterans or mental health court, but I thought the best way, we want to get the mitigation letter.
Get the mitigation. Okay.
Yes,
All right. Okay.
kind of start that process, so.
All
Thank you.
right. Glad to see you're doing well.
Thank you, Your Honor.
You take care.
Yes, Your Honor.
Court calls case, People versus Irvin Patterson.
Casey Burke, Your Honor, on behalf of my client, Irvin Patterson.
Wow, she didn't do it this time. She didn't do it. You know, it's great. If you just keep after them, they learn. And it's good to see when they do. Warms my heart.
Happy to do it. Thank you, Your Honor.
All right. Your name, sir?
Irvin Patterson.
Thank you, sir. All right, what are we doing?
Your Honor, we are seeking an adjournment. It looked like we had the wrong phone number, so we were unable to contact my client, but we now have the correct information.
All right. Probable cause conference will be adjourned August 1st, 2024, 9 a.m.
Thank you, Your Honor.
And thank you, Bond continued. Thank you,
Your
sir.
Honor.
You're welcome, sir. Court calls.
Okay, it's going to be soon, and then I haven't seen the rest, so we're going to have to find it together.
Case of the People versus Theory Reynolds.
The people.
Assistant Public Defender Natalie Pate with on behalf of Mr. Reynolds, who is approaching.
I'm doing well. Your name?
Theory Reynolds.
Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor. We are respectfully requesting a brief adjournment of this matter so I can have a meaningful discussion with my client.
August 1st, 2024, without objection, 9 a.m. Bond continued.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, sir. Court calls case People versus Ryan Scarcliffe.
Mr. Sinatra for the people.
Joy Gang, Senior Assistant Public Defender, representing Mr. Scarkle.
Yes, ma'am.
And would you say your name, sir?
Ryan Skarkowith.
Thank you. Okay, what are we doing?
Your Honor, we are in negotiations with the prosecutor and would ask for a 1-week adjournment. I'm hoping that we can resolve it in a week.
Okay, I can give you 2 weeks if you think you'll,
Pardon me?
I can give you 2 weeks. If that will work.
Shall we do? What works for you?
1 week if we could, but 2 weeks if necessary.
Okay.
So what you decide?
So if necessary, we will do 2 weeks that we can do, but a preference for 1 week.
Yeah, I know. But you don't want to see the docket next week.
Okay.
All right. So I'm going to put it out to July 25th.
Okay.
2024, 9 a.m. or as your invite indicates, bond will continue. Okay?
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, sir. Court calls case People versus Devin Schiller.
Nimish Ganatra for the people.
Kenneth Overwater, Assistant Public Defender, on behalf of Mr. Schiller, who approaches and stands to my right. Mr. Schiller, would you state your name for the record?
Devin Matthew Schiller.
Okay, what are we doing?
Your Honor, I'd be asking to adjourn the probable cause conference. There is a bond violation that I assume the court has seen.
Yes.
So I did speak with my client regarding that. I did indicate to me that he did have a relapse a few weeks ago. He has begun going to, is it Narcotics Anonymous, NA meetings?
They're technically A, but it's kind of like a mixed group.
Right. So he's going to meetings. He's been to, I think, 7 meetings in the last about 10 days. He did provide me with some sign-in sheets to verify some of the later meetings. Additionally, it looks like Community Corrections has referred him to outpatient. He has an intake for that on July 15th, which he will be attending. He continues to test, knowing that those levels are going to reduce, but they will eventually be testing.
Well, I don't have levels. And I mean, I have 3.
I just want to go find where I put my Coke can. But you're gonna want to watch the back door.
3 consecutive tests of fentanyl.
I read on.
When did you start this programming that you kind of created for yourself?
So he started attending the AANA meetings in late June after he had his relapse. He had thought that this was something he could manage kind of on his own. And then he
We're
has
gonna have to
realized,
find something, Mr. Allen. We're gonna have to find something else.
Judge, I'm going to ask the court to consider adjourning this and give him an opportunity to stay on the path that he's on. He has a referral for outpatient, which is not something that he was doing, and that was the recommendation of Community Corrections. If he's taken into custody today, that's going to derail the treatment plan that he has in place, and it's only going to delay.
It, to the extent it's a treatment plan. I mean, what it is it's his notion of what to do. But I've got 3 consecutive testing of.
Your Honor, may I say something?
I don't think that's a good idea.
Okay.
All right, Your Honor, he was at one point a high user. In that instance, it takes time for the levels to reduce. For the levels to reduce. We don't know what the levels actually are, but the report indicates that those can be sent out for testing to determine that the levels are in fact reducing.
If I look at this testing, I don't think he's ever stopped.
I have.
Because the first test, since this case anyway, because the first test, he is an unable or refuse, there's no test. And then 3 consecutive tests, he's testing positive for fentanyl.
And Judge, he reports the last time he used was in late June. Those numbers are reducing. If the court will allow him, there are going to be negative tests coming. He has an intake for outpatient treatment at Community
Fentanyl
Corrections.
won't stay in his system that long. That means he's continuing to use.
I promise you, it will be negative next week. When you're a chronic user, I read online that it can stay in your system for up to 4 weeks. I haven't been using in multiple weeks.
Somebody needs to come back with a plan for his release, but he's going in right now. You're not going to have three tests coming back.
The
like that.
levels are
Don't say
going.
anything.
You can argue with me if you want.
I'm not gonna
Bonds are
argue with
revoked. Defendant's remanded. I'll set it over to next week, the 18th, 9 a.m.
Thank you, Your Honor.
So I don't have no one. I have no one.
Who was that? Get security down here and find 9 a.m.
Okay, are you ready? Watch carefully. In fact, let's do this. It's going to sound like the judge has had a drink, but he hasn't.
Yeah.
Thank you, Your Honor.
I'm just going to mute because it sounds awful. Okay. See that guy's head turns? That person's walking out. She signals over, door opens. Judge is like, what is happening? Now we go back to normal speed. Oh, one
Here
sec.
and
Sorry.
find out who the heck.
The AANA meetings in the corrections. If he's
9 a.m.
Thank you, Your Honor.
So I don't have no one. I have no one.
Who was that? Get security down here and find out who the heck that was, because they're not going to walk out of my courtroom that way. Who? Did you see who just came out of the courtroom, Joe?
I did not. I was in the comments.
Okay.
Black.
It's a woman in a black t-shirt. If she was down in courtroom C, I want her brought back. Court's gonna stand in recess.
Okay. Let's go. So I haven't seen when they come back.
No. Rush hour.
Request.
Let's see what happens here. Hey, Donald. Do you know who hasn't been here? Do you know who hasn't been here in a while? It's Adam.
Michigan is now back in session. The Honorable Judge J. Southern Simpson preside.
You may be seated. Court calls the case, People versus Frederick Baez. There he is.
Your Honor, Amy Rides, everything on behalf of.
And Your Honor, Joe Simon on behalf of Mr. Baez, state your name, Frederick.
Frederick Baez, Your Honor.
Thank you. I never noticed that his hair is almost the same color as his shirt. I'm sorry, I was just observing.
It's wisdom, Your Honor. That's what I tell my children. It's wisdom.
It's wisdom. Okay.
Yes. Anyway, Your Honor, we request the matter be set for preliminary exam. Request the date, I know how you prefer that, of July 30th. If available.
And now discovery is complete.
Yes, well, actually, we adjourned several times for a supplemental discovery that was never materialized, but nevertheless, we're asking for that date because we need to
Move this along.
yes.
Yes. Is it because it doesn't exist or it's just?
Outstanding question. That is our best belief standing here today. There was a supplemental interview that was requested that we don't think materialized because
I don't think the witness was able to be interviewed, so it doesn't, it wasn't. adjourned it for that potential to be done and it was not.
Got it. Got it. And the witnesses would be available on the.
Okay, we can watch this
Yes,
another
you
time.
did.
Yes, Your Honor.
I just want to see if that lady comes back.
For the past few days.
Your Honor, on behalf of my client Brendan,
We're reading standing mute. Court
Our request,
bond will continue. Thank you.
Wait, was it that
Your
lady?
Honor, on behalf of my client Brendan Ventura, unfortunately, we have tried to make contact with our client for the past few days, emailing, calling, text, and we've gotten no response. So today I am very respectfully, please begging for an adjournment from you today.
She says that so nicely.
Thank you.
Easily. That's not really. That's where release failure to appear. Bond is set in the amount of 10,000.
Thank-
Cash surety. That warrant will issue immediately.
Thank you, Your Honor.
You're welcome.
On that note.
Yeah. Court calls the case People versus Kareem Washington.
No, it's not her.
Court call.
And then he goes private. Okay. Does she come back? No, I'm gonna have to.
yeah, not today though.
I'm gonna have to skim through this during Oscar or something. Ah, I just closed it. Okay, don't worry. I will find it. I will find it. I'm gonna go back a little bit. Is there a way to create a banner that is bigger? Ooh, that could work, guys. I think I just found the hack to covering that bottom part. Right, let's go into Oscar.
It is just a coincidence, perhaps, that your wife testified that it was between 9 and 10, and yesterday when you testified, yours were also then, contrary to your statement, between 9 and 10. That's all I put to you. But it's not because you've discussed it with your wife.
Not at
No,
all.
good. Now, the second point is this. You can go through your statement, and I will not mislead the court, but in paragraph 5 of your statement, 4 and 5, you deal with making a call to the security and the wrong security and whatever, not too important. But what you don't deal with was what was the situation at that time with the woman screaming. You agree?
The lady, that is correct.
You don't deal with it in your statement. Now, will you accept it when I put it to you that likewise, and the statement is before court as Exhibit M, likewise, your wife deals with the telephone call to security and also in a statement does not deal with whether they were screaming at that time. Will you accept that?
I accept that, yes.
Yeah. Or whether she heard screaming or whether they were screaming, whatever, same as yours. Both of you in your statements did not deal with it. However, in cross-examination, I asked her about it. And she said words to the effect that at that time she was not focusing on concentrating on the screaming because of the telephone. You understand?
I do.
Of significance yesterday, without the state prompting you, no question from the state, in that regard. You tendered evidence consistent with that of your wife that she had not dealt with in her affidavit to say, state and ask you about it. I didn't pay any attention to any sounds coming from the house or the direction. How is that? How is that your wife was cross-examined? It's not in your statement. It is not in her statement. She was then cross-examined about the screening at the time of the telephone call. And she said that she was focusing on something else, meaning she didn't pay attention. You then, out of your own accord, without the state asking you, go there and say, without anyone asking you, I didn't pay attention to that. How's that?
It's quite simple. It's notes that I made to myself after the advice of Advocate Nikki Maritz. And I've obviously reviewed those notes to remind myself that's a note that I made that I did not pay attention or wasn't aware of any sounds that came from the direction of where the incident happened because I was focusing on the telephone call.
Can we see the notes?
I don't have a printed copy available.
Can you tell someone where it is and go and fetch it whilst you're in court? That we can look at the notes.
I have no problem with that. I have a copy on my iPad, which is in the witness room back.
Well, so we can print it, and those notes were made before your statement.
That is correct, yes.
And you agree that you give that note to Captain van Aert?
I did not. I informed him about it, my lady, and he said I must keep it in a safe place.
And your first statement that you made to the two policemen that came, where is that? Did you keep a copy of that?
I did not receive a copy of that, my lady. It was I would term it as just a casual conversation relating.
Did you not make a written statement?
Not that first evening, my lady.
Not the first evening, sorry, you just referred to that statement in your evidence.
Yeah, so there were two visits. The one evening was by the two investigating officers, my lady. And then in the following week, Captain Mike van Aert contacted me, made an appointment, and that's when I made my first official statement.
Your iPad will, of course, show when you put the notes on your iPad. Did you put it on at that time, or was it more recent?
My lady, I have a copy. The notes were made on my personal laptop computer, and I've kept it there, a copy. Last night, I converted the notes to a PDF format and transferred it to my iPad.
So we will be able to see when the first note was made.
My lady, I think it would be possible to derive that from the file history.
But we will get it during the adjournment. We'll get the notes, and you're satisfied to show it to us.
Absolutely.
And what caused you to make that note?
It was, my lady, it was on the advice of Advocate Nikki Maritz. He said that normally these cases take a very long time before they are heard before a court, and your memory will fade. So he advised us to make notes in as much detail as we can remember, to rely on to refresh your memory later on.
But it's a bit different, because this is not a note of what you observed. It's a note of what you did not observe. It's a negative. That's why I'm asking.
My lady, the content of the note describes the entire experience. What I did, I make explicit mention of the fact that I did not pay attention to the sounds from the direction of where the lady's screams were coming. It's one sentence and probably a 1.5-page document.
We'll look at the notes. That's not important. Well. Now let's go to the next point. In your statement, and I want you to read it out, paragraph 6. Just before the shots. I can help you. It says, ek het die vrou gehoor gil. You see that?
I do.
Now, in your wife's statement, she says the same thing in paragraph 6. Ek het die vrou gehoor, full meaning I heard the woman screaming or yelling.
I accept that.
Yes. However, in your evidence, you then describe the screaming. You defined that. You said that it was more intense. You could hear the fear. You remember that? Would that be correct?
Are you referring to my testimony yesterday?
Yes.
Yes, my lady, I remember that.
Is that in your note?
I can't recall.
Yes. Now, what is significant? In your wife's evidence, not in a statement, she also defines or describes just the one word, gil, or the yell, or the scream, to say that it was more intense and she could hear the fear, exactly the same. And it is remarkable that it is not in her statement, not in your statement. She testified about it to describe, and you come and you testify about it in the same manner. Can you explain that?
It's, I would venture a guess that it's the way you verbally tell the story.
Yes.
There's a lot more emotion involved when you convey the experience,
Yes.
where the statement is more factual recollection.
Well, let's go on. Let's go to screams. If you look at paragraph 6, I read to you, first die Afrikaans, ek het die vrou gehoor gil en toe 'n sarsie skote gehoor. To translate, I heard a woman screaming and then I heard a volley of shots. Are you satisfied with my translation?
I'm satisfied.
Is that what you meant to tell the person that took the statement from you?
That is correct, yes.
Yes. In your wife's statement, it starts the same. She heard the woman screaming and then 4 shots. You just had a volley of shots. She had 4. I heard the woman screaming and then the shots. So that's in her statement, that's in your statement. However, in her evidence, she said, and she used now explicit words, that she heard the screaming also during the shots. You have that?
Yes, I do.
You come to court yesterday and you testified now with explicit language that you don't have to infer from it that you heard the shots, the screams, also screams during the shots. Do you agree?
I agree. That is
Yes.
exactly what I heard.
Let's go to the first one. Next one. Let's go to your statement, paragraph 6. You say, and I first read the Afrikaans that you can find it. Die laaste gil was net na die laaste skoot. 1 tot 2 secondes, meaning the last scream was just after the last shot, plus minus 1 to 2 seconds. You have that?
I do.
Your wife's evidence, not evidence, statement. The woman gave the last scream about 2 seconds after the shots. You see that? But when your wife came to give evidence, she said the following. She said that the last scream, when she said, I heard her voice fading away with the last scream. Significantly, when you gave evidence yesterday, as it was not stated in your statement and your wife's statement, but in her evidence, you said the following. The last scream faded moments after the shot, the fading. She spoke about the fading of the scream after the last shot, and you speak about the fading. How is that?
When we had to testify, my lady, or not testify, make the statement, I used the indication of seconds to indicate a very short duration. I chose different words. If I have to describe it verbally, that's how I would explain it. I think the 1 or 2 seconds perhaps came in response to a question from Captain van Aert, how long? I'm fairly certain that I would have given him a similar version, verbal explanation of moments after the last shot, the last scream faded away. And then I think he asked me how long were the moments, and to try and peg a time frame on it, I probably said 1 or 2 seconds, or it could be half a second.
Mr. Johnson, it's not about the time. It's about the exact same word, not in your statements, only in her evidence, fading. And then in your evidence, fading. That's what it's all about. Now, it may be a remarkable coincidence, but I'm dealing with 6 of them now in a row. You understand? I've taken the first one, the time, where it then became exactly a time. And so I went through it. I don't want to repeat it. I'm now with the one fading. Will you want to give an explanation again about the coincidence of using the same word that she used on a cross-examination that was not part of your statement?
Lady, I'm satisfied with my explanation.
Would it be part of your notes?
Lady, can Advocate Reeva just clarify what you are referring to?
You know your notes that you have on your laptop?
I mean, what in the notes?
The fading.
We would have to go and
Yes,
look at the
we'll
notes,
see,
my
of
lady.
course. Well, let's go on, Mr. Johnson. Let's go to paragraph 6 still of your statement. In your statement, paragraph 6, when you describe the shots, you refer to it. I first give you the Afrikaans. You say, en toe 'n sarsie skote, then a volley of shots. We all know in Afrikaans and in English a volley exactly what it is. Now, your wife gave evidence to say after the first shot, there was a small pause. Couldn't give the time, but there was a small pause. When you gave evidence yesterday, what did you say about the duration between the shots instead of a volley of shots? What did you say? Can you remember?
I recall, my lady, that I testified that there was a pause between the first shot and the shots that followed.
A small pause between the first shot and the other shots. Exactly the same as your wife's evidence. Not in her statement, not in your statement. You agree?
I agree.
How is that? Is that a coincidence?
My lady, I don't think it's such a big coincidence if 2 people stand 10 meters apart from each other, witnessing the same incident, that they would have such similar recollections of the event.
It is not that, Mr. Johnson. It is where it differs from your statement. It is not the same. It's not contained in your statement, and it was in her evidence, and then it is in your evidence And then I start to understand, or maybe not understand, why you did not give evidence directly after your wife's evidence. You were available. What was in it? Why did you just not come and give evidence after her evidence?
My lady, is Mr. Roo referring to yesterday?
Yes.
I did give,
No,
I don't
Mrs.
know.
van der Merwe was called in between, so as
Oh,
to have that opening period.
My lady, I'm sure she wouldn't mind me volunteering this information. She was extremely nervous and kept on saying to us, she cannot take another day of this. She wants to go carry on with her life. And I think for that reason, Advocate Nell obliged and gave her the opportunity to testify yesterday.
When did she tell you that? After her evidence?
Milady, no, that was during our period that we waited there. She said she was going to request that she could testify.
During what period?
Milady, it's during the period that we waited in the witness room, the past day or two.
The two of you waiting in the witness room. When was that?
All the witnesses are congregated together in a room on the first floor.
In the same room?
That is correct.
You and your wife as well?
Before she testified, we were there together, and during the breaks, I saw her once or twice.
So you saw your wife during the breaks, and after her evidence, because there was nothing stopping you to come give evidence, you saw her again, Mr. Johnson?
Milady, I don't think it's so strange. We lived together. We were going to be together.
I'm not asking if it's strange. I just want to put a factual position before the court. You saw her again after her evidence and before you gave evidence. You came into the box.
That is correct, Milady.
Yes. But yet you would say all these remarkable points of similarity between your evidence not to be found in your statement and her statement, that we could ascribe to coincidence.
Milady, I don't think it's coincidence. When my wife testified, she's been an aerobic instructor for close to 20 years, part-time hobby. So she counts rhythms and numbers. She plays piano up to a quite advanced level. So instinctively she counts it. I don't pay attention to that detail. That's why I couldn't say there were exactly 4 shots. I estimated 5 or 6. I think.
Mr. Johnson, maybe I must stop you. You don't know what you're doing to yourself. Because that was solely in her evidence, what you've just said, and not in a statement. What you have just told the court is to confirm what I'm putting to you over and over. And here you come and you tender it. You did not discuss the matter, you said before the time I asked you all the questions. And now she told you about counting because of her musical background, the shots. That was in her evidence, not in her statement.
It's something we discussed, and we said we wonder why she would remember the exact number. And that's what our conclusion was.
So was that after her evidence before you came in?
No, milady. It was way back. I think even before we made our statements, that there was quite a long period after the event until we made our first statements.
You see, Mr. Johnson, you told the court, I asked you right in the beginning, but for emotional support, after your statements, you did not discuss it. That aspect is not in a statement. It came out when she was confronted on hearing the 4 shots and why she could say it's 4 shots. It was not something old. It came out in cross-examination or in examination chief, I can't remember, but in her evidence, not in a statement. You saw her after her evidence. And now you come without me asking you. You tendered an additional coincidence. That's what I'm putting to you. You discussed the evidence, and I will argue to the court. It is just too remarkable that that you did not come and give evidence after your wife. First call someone else, let you and your wife be together, make sure that you patch and that the evidence is consistent, like fading, like pause between the shots, Now, like the music counting, you understand? You understand what I put to you, Mr. Johnson? You shake your head. Do you understand?
I understand what the advocate is saying, but I can honestly tell you we did not discuss her evidence. I mean, her testimony.
Yes.
I can give you my honest word.
You know, in my experience, I don't want to say it's applicable to you, but once witnesses start to introduce the word honestly, then I wonder about it, because right from the beginning, it should have been honestly. You don't have to say it. What worries me, Mr. Johnson, let me explain something to you. This court is really entitled to something, and that is that witnesses come to court not contaminated, uncontaminated, give that independent version so that the court can listen to this witness and to the other one, because witnesses are not always reliable. Sometimes they're not lying, but there are many times a reliability issue. And the only way to satisfy yourself then about reliability is to maintain a strong independence in versions. You have not favored the court with that, Mr. Johnson, you and your wife. I'm sorry, I put it to you. You could just as well stood together in the witness box. That's what I put to you. What do you say to that?
I don't
Aren't
agree
you
with
going
your
a
statement.
bit too far, Mr. Rowe?
Maybe I won't, it's for the court to decide, my lady, I won't take it to that point. I withdraw that. Now, Mr. Johnson, the screening that you say in your evidence that you heard when you're back on the balcony, you said it was screaming and then shots. How long was that screaming?
Milady, it's a long time ago. I can't recall in exact detail.
So you have a difficulty, and that's fair, I understand it, Mr. Johnson. You have a difficulty when you think, and maybe you experience that as traumatic. You have a difficulty to remember accurately when you're back on the balcony, you heard screaming, but how long, if it was short or long? You can't remember.
All I can offer you is that I heard screaming.
You don't know if it was long before the shots or short before the shots. You only remember screaming. Is that correct?
It's difficult to judge the amount of time that lapsed. So, and my short might be your long.
Yes.
So I don't want to peg a time on it. There were the screams and then the shot started.
Your wife spoke, but maybe if you don't know, then you don't know. Spoke about moments. But you can't remember.
It's not that I can't put a time duration on it. It didn't feel like long. But the whole experience didn't feel like very long.
And we know that you're standing outside on the balcony when you hear what you describe as shots. And so when I refer to shots, please understand me, Mr. Johnson, that I'm not submitting to you that they were indeed shots. I'll come back to that. But just for ease of reference, I refer to them for present purposes as shots. So let me repeat again, just to put that to you. You were standing outside on the balcony, and your wife was inside the house when you heard the shots.
That is correct, my lady.
But you were not able to hear the number of the shots, the number.
My lady, I did not count the shots. I heard a number of shots, but I did not count them. I estimated 5 or 6 shots.
Was it difficult to count them at the time? Is it, or just because that you, as you said here, that it's a long time ago and it's difficult to remember?
It was even afterwards, lady, shortly afterwards in my first versions of the events, I also did not know how many shots were fired. I only learned that afterwards.
You also, sorry, the last part, I couldn't hear you.
I said that only afterwards I'd learned that from probably in the media or perhaps Captain Mike van Aert. It was confirmed by some other person or source.
Maybe I understand now better one of the things that you said in your evidence yesterday when you spoke about people, that you assumed that there were many people much closer to Mr. Pistorius's house. Then you added that would have a much clearer recollection and would have heard more clearly what had happened.
That is correct.
Yesterday? It
That is
tells
correct, my
me
lady.
something that you acknowledged that there was some problem. It was not that clear and your recollection was not that good, because that's why you defer to or hoping to defer to people that would have heard clearer.
Would that
be unfair?
My lady, I do not agree with that statement.
What did you mean to say by saying with a much clearer recollection and that would have heard more clearly? People closer that would have heard more clearly.
What I meant that is that the assumption is the closer you are, the more detail you can hear.
Excuse me, I couldn't hear. I'm so sorry that I do that to you. I have difficulty in hearing.
What I said, my lady, is that my assumption was if you were closer, if there were people closer to the house, they would be able to hear more clearly and perhaps more detail.
Who was first to wake up that morning because of what you say, the screaming?
My lady, I woke up first.
So you woke up first, and it's, if I look at your evidence, your wife, you heard the scream that you thought you woke up by the screaming. You then listened, you heard the scream again, and then you jumped up. Is that not so?
My lady, can I just ask the advocate to repeat that statement, please?
Thank you, I will. You woke up. Of course, it's difficult. You were sleeping, thinking that it was a scream. You then listened. You heard a scream again, and then you jumped out of bed.
That is correct, my lady.
And it is only then, if I look at your evidence, when you jumped out of bed, that your wife woke up.
Yes, that is what she told me.
Yes.
Guys, I'm going to be in super focus in a minute. I just want to know if you want me to skip, if you're getting really over this, because just a reminder, if you weren't here on Friday, this is 5th of March. This trial ran until August. So I'm happy to skip forward. Hey, Dark Cloud. I also did contact a local lawyer. However, I haven't heard back, just to explain what the situation is. And also, I just lost the page. Sorry, one sec. Just to explain the objections and all of that. Skip. Yeah, Chini, it's long. Like, it's really long. And I was going to try my best to edit it down. But I have to be honest with you guys, like, I don't have the bandwidth to do it. Mental bandwidth and time, because I have a day job. In order to be able to keep my channel ticking decently with YouTube, I have to be posting videos outside of the lives. And that's not like super time consuming, but I do that myself because I add a little bit of like text commentary here and there. So it just doesn't make sense for me to do it. So I'm more than happy to skip ahead. Let's see. If I may rewind. Oh, gosh. Let's see what the judge says here.
Jumping out of the bed. And that was at the time after the scream and you going to the balcony. That must be correct.
Can I just confirm? You're saying my wife woke up?
We've confirmed that because of you jumping out of the bed and then running to the balcony. At that time, there was no scream. It was a scream before you jumped up, and the next scream was when you were in the balcony. We've went through this.
I would accept that, yes.
So what I'm saying to you on your version, your wife did not wake up because of screaming. On your version.
In fact,
on your version, that's all I
I
said.
would think so, yes. I think when I asked her when she woke up, and she said when I jumped out of bed.
Yes. We've gone through this. I'm only saying on your versions, it's not difficult. Then, although you regarded this areas, neighborhoods, estates, as extremely safe, there was a first association that entered your mind when you heard the screaming. And that was, there's a house robbery, a house break-in or a house robbery, a dangerous situation.
That is correct, my lady.
It was never in your mind, house robberies do not happen in these areas, cannot be, it must be domestic violence. Correct?
That is correct.
That is unfortunately, and I cannot emphasize it more, that is unfortunately a way of thinking, not so.
That's correct, yes. I agree.
We exposed to house robberies and the violence associated with that. You shake your head?
Yes.
You're not, I mean?
It's,
Yes,
it's
that's so.
true.
You, in fact, that thought that you harbored that it was a house robbery was still part of your thinking after the shooting. Mr.
That is correct, my lady, yes.
If I may remind you, it's not for me to do it, and I understand it's a human thing to do.
Sorry, but we just I just got alerted to something by my wonderful mod that I'm going to quickly try find. We interrupt this broadcast. You might have been here when we were chatting about Jay Slater, who was missing. I won't be able to share this for long because I just know that Sky is going to be one of those that is not going to be kind to me.
Investigations reveal that he could have suffered an accident or fall in the inaccessible area where he was found. And we're joined on the phone by Shingi Mariki, who has covered this case extensively from out there in Tenerife. It's a desperately sad end to this story, isn't it, if this does turn out to be Jay Slater's remains, and very, very close to where he was last seen and heard from.
Yeah, it seems to be that this body was found in the Masca area of Tenerife. And just to give you a sense as to where that is, it's on the northwest of the island, about 40 minutes away from the tourist strip where Jay was staying, where he had been attending the New Rave Generation Festival, the NRG
This looks so much like Cape Town. It's so creepy.
Music Festival. He was there, and it was the last night of the festival when we understand he met two men. He traveled with those two men to the Masca area in a hire car, and then we understand that in the morning after that, according to an eyewitness, he was seen asking for what time the bus would be coming before walking in the wrong direction up towards an area where his phone signal was last located, which was further north from the house, further north from the part of Tenerife where he was going to. His phone is said to have last pinged there. We then understand at some point in that time frame, he had a conversation with had conversations with a couple of his friends in which he was talking about having no phone battery, about having no water, about having potentially pricked his foot on a cactus, meaning he was injured. And at that point, there was no further trace of Jay, and that's when the search operation then began. That search operation formally lasted until the middle of June, in which the Spanish Civil Guard called it off, but they obviously continued it in some capacity, leading to this discovery, which will be a bitter blow to his family if it is indeed Jay Slater, which the police are saying by the early indications it is.
So that kind of summarizes everything that we were trying to find out. The reason why this guy being missing had mixed feelings and reactions was that he had previous very violent allegations against him. And so the initial stages, people were kind of like, oh, well, he's not a great person. Maybe it caught up with him. And the other theory was that he was on drugs and had gone to try find more drugs and found himself caught up in like underworldish sort of things. I'm just taking a Turbovite, which is like caffeine and vitamins, because I'm about to go into a writing rabbit hole. Mark my words. So back to Oscar. So then, okay, listen. This summarizes it perfectly. The story really, 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 really confused me. Oh, wrong banner. Because I couldn't understand why people were being so... Let me just see. Why people were being so nasty. And that's when I brought it up on live. I just want to try to find the actual allegations. Oh, Friends, Love Island's back. Previous allegations. Only 19, yep. So his man, Evie, do you know where you saw that thing on what he was charged with? It has something to do with a brutal attack. I'm actually annoying myself now taking this long. This is a rabbit hole I shouldn't be going down. Okay, anyway, I'll dig. Someone hacked his Instagram and made it look like he had already passed away. Victim Tom Hilton. Thank you, Evie. That will make it so much easier. Okay. Oh, I need to find an article that isn't so descriptive. So Tom Hilton was allegedly attacked by 8 teenagers. There. It was part of an 8-member gang that attacked Tom Hilton in 2021, resulting in severe injuries that left him fighting for his life. So when Jay initially went missing, people were like, he probably... No, it's fine. The articles that were coming up had the description of how he was left fighting for his life. So this is perfect. RA is supposed to be going live with court hopping in 20 minutes. Oh dear. Okay, let's see how far I can get in this.
Shot and still during the shots would scream. It would cricket bat. Oh, now we lose Mr. Watson.
Or were they taken from a central time server, which I would assume the cell phone provider would have available?
Mr. A door.
He's still going.
I only woke up from.
It was the Friday afternoon.
Measurements for security purposes.
Learned.
You said it must be up 5 o'clock. What now that we can see the time of.
I do just want to say that I'm not going to skip. Chini, different kind of gang. It's like just teen hooligans. It's not what you're thinking. He was a hooligan teenager who attacked someone and then went missing during a bender in Spain. I'm not going to skip important witnesses. So if you're worried about that, these witnesses are not important as much as Mr. Rue wants you to think they are.
In the break, we've attempted to give access, the defense access to the notes. It's a bit of a difficulty to get the defense access to the notes. We have arranged, if it pleases the court, that we stand this witness down, that we make arrangements for the original computer where these notes were created on to be made available to the defense this afternoon, so that the necessary copying could happen. And we hope to be able to proceed with this witness tomorrow. In the meantime, milady, I have other witnesses available that we could utilize court time. I don't foresee it till the end of the court day, but we could still work and carry on with it.
No, there's no problem.
This is, of course, subject to your approval, my lady.
Yes. Okay. No, it's fine. We can do that. Mr. Johnson, you're excused for now.
Thank you, my lady.
Thank you very much.
My lady, I'm so sorry. May I also request that, not to have it in installments, that the wife's notes also be made available to us?
I did.
He referred to notes made by him and by his wife.
And by his wife. Yeah. Yes, if your wife also made notes, please make sure that her notes are also made available. Thank you. And please, Mr. Johnson, you're still under oath. Don't discuss this matter with anybody.
May I then call Kevin Lerena as the next witness?
It's witness number.
Yeah, I will ask my colleague to check, my lady. We'll find it now, Melody.
It's 34, we've got it.
34. Thank you, Melody.
Yes, the witness may be sworn in.
The full names, please, sir. Kevin Anton Lorena.
Do you have any objection to take the prescribed oath?
I don't.
Please swear that the evidence you are about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing else but the truth. Please raise your right hand and say, so help me God.
So help me God.
Sworn in, my lady.
Thank you very much. You may be seated if you so wish.
Melody, there's no order to be made in terms of this witness.
No order.
No order to be
Yes, no order is made.
made. Mr. Lorena, what business are you in?
I'm a professional boxer.
Mr. Lorena, do you know the accused before court, Mr. Oscar Pistorius?
Yes, I do, my lady.
How did you meet him?
We met through my sponsor at the time, Daytona Group.
On what occasion?
I was invited to a track day by Daytona Group, and I happened to get to the car dealership, and I met Oscar Pistorius there, who was a sports icon. Looked up to him, and he was there at the dealership, and that's the day I met him.
If you say a track day, what is meant by a track day?
We went to Kalami racetrack to the car racing, to go watch the racing there. One of my friends or mutual friends that I know was racing that day.
You met Mr. Pistorius on that day. Who was part, the other people in your group?
The people we went to the track with?
Yes.
Well, obviously Daytona Group, the owner of Daytona Group, Justin Devaris, Darren Fresco was there, as well as a few other friends that I recognize from rugby.
Now, since that particular day, did you socialize with Mr. Pistorius after that?
Yes, I did. I sat with him on occasion to meet for him to help me with training, because he was going to help me with the diet, and he did. So I spoke to him to help me with my career, because obviously he's an icon and a legend in sport and athletics. You know, for me as a young sportsman to get help from a guy like him was very important. So I was rubbing shoulders with him, and he was going to help me with the diet and a little bit of running.
Then, during January 2013, you were at the restaurant with Mr. Pistorius, is that correct?
This is correct, yes.
Which restaurant was that?
We were at Tasha's Mount Resort.
And you were there with a group?
Yes, there was 4 of us.
Who were you?
I was sitting there with Mr. Pistorius, myself, Darren Fresco, and a guy called Martin Rooney, another runner.
Just repeat the name. I'm sure nobody heard.
Martin Rooney.
Martin Rooney.
You'd have to raise your voice a little bit. This
problem.
noise, I'm not sure where it's coming from. It's
It
very
is the air
disturbing.
conditioning.
Is it the aircon?
Yes.
I thought so.
Must I repeat that?
Yes, please, just repeat the names of the people that were there with you.
It was Mr. Pistorius, me, Darren Fresco, and Martin Rooney, another runner.
Mr. Larina, there's a file in front of you. Could you open that file at G? You'll see it's marked in yellow on the side, G. And it's photographed, it's marked photo album 14. Do you see that? Yeah.
Yeah,
You see
correct. Yes.
Would you mind just opening those photographs in front of you? And the first photograph is marked 1132.
That is correct.
Can you recognize that place?
Yes.
What is that?
That's Tasha's Mara's Arch.
And is that the restaurant where you were?
Yes.
Sitting where?
We're sitting inside.
Inside. Okay, can you just turn the page. 1133. Does that look familiar?
Same restaurant.
If you turn the page again to slide 1134, does that look familiar?
Yes.
What is that?
That is inside the restaurant where we were seated.
Now, if you say where we were seated, is there any significance to the red arrow on that photograph?
Well, that is the table that we were sitting at.
Whilst we have this photograph open in front of us, were there other people in that restaurant?
Yes, there were. I can't tell you how many, but there were other people in the restaurant.
One can see if that's your table, there's a table just next to yours. Do you know if there were people?
Yes, there were people next to us, but I'm not sure if the distance was that. I cannot remember that clearly.
There were people next to you?
Yes, there were.
1135. Can you recognize that view from the photograph?
Yes, I can.
And that is?
The tables we were sitting at, but there's another table closer to that that wasn't like that.
Yeah, the one right on the right.
Yeah.
You had two tables, am I right?
From what I remember, yes.
The two tables with the white napkins on them, as one can see there.
Yes, that is correct.
Is that where you were sitting?
From this angle, that looks correct, yes.
Okay. 1136 is just a different angle. Can you recognize that?
Same table, yes.
The table with the red arrow.
Yes.
And then we have a different angle on 1137. Am I correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Now then, in photograph 1138, we have the same table with numbers on it. Can you allocate names to numbers where people were seated?
Where am I able to look at the screen?
Yeah, you can look at the screen.
Where number 1 is where Oscar Pistorius was sitting. Number 2, I was sitting there. Number 3, Martin Rooney. And number 4 was where Darren Fresco was sitting.
Good. So, you were there for what purpose?
Well, I had spoken to Oscar prior to this, and to meet up with him, he was helping me with a dart. He was helping with a little bit of running because I had a prep for my next fight, which was in February the 16th. So this was the 13th of January, around there, from what I remember correctly. And he was helping me with my final running and dart to bring my weight down as I fight in the cruiserweight division. And Oscar knew how to, obviously being an athlete he is, how to get in tip-top shape. So I met him there and he was helping me with that dart.
Were you eating or drinking something?
Well, we had a drink. We ordered, sat down, had a drink. I was eating. I ordered a pasta.
What happened then?
Well, what happened then was obviously, I don't know for what reason, but a gun was passed under the table. And
What if you say a gun was passed on the table? Just explain to the court. Who passed the gun to whom?
Darren Fresco passed his gun under the table to Oscar.
Darren Fresco, sitting at number 4, passed his gun to the accused that was sitting at number 1.
Yes, that is
How
correct.
do you know that?
Well, I'm sitting in a company of 4 people, you know, so it's not like there's a large group. And when you're sitting next to someone, you can see the gun being passed under the table.
Was anything said while the gun was handed over?
Whilst the gun was passed to Oscar? Yes, from what I remember correctly, Darren said, "I'm 1 up." There's a bullet in the chain. I'm 1 up. I then believe Oscar removed that bullet.
I believe, or did you see it?
I did not see that happen.
Not see it.
No.
But let us just explain to court exactly what you saw and what you heard. You saw the gun being passed under the table.
Well, the movements, the actions. I didn't see the gun.
Okay. And you heard what Mr. Fresco said?
I'm 1 up, yes.
1 up. What do you understand by 1 up?
That there's one loaded into the chamber.
Okay.
That people who carry guns, I suppose, carry 1 up.
Okay. And what happened next?
A shot went off. A shot went off in the restaurant, and then there was just complete silence. Once the shot went off, I looked down. I was in shock, and I looked down on the floor, and exactly where my foot was stationary, there was like a hole in the floor.
Just before you go on, so you looked down and saw there was a hole in the floor. Can you just go to photograph 1139? Does that look familiar?
Yes.
Is that what you saw?
Yes.
You saw the hole in the floor. What else did you see?
Well, obviously, I looked down, and from, I don't know, the marble tiles or the shrapnel, I'm not sure what, but I had a little graze on my toe. But I wasn't hurt or injured. I didn't need to seek medical treatment or any of that.
Were you bleeding?
I was scratched from the shrapnel. I don't know what from, but there was blood on my toe, yes.
And what did you do?
Well, from what I remember correctly, I went up to the bathroom to go get a tissue just to wipe it. I was in shock because I've never been in a confined area where a gunshot's gone off by accident, you know. Could have been a fatality. So for me, I was very shocked. I don't think it sunk in until 3-4 days after. Because when it happened, I was shocked, but it happened, you know. I didn't expect it. I didn't understand it.
But just shortly after that shot went off, who said what?
Well, the shot went off, and I do remember Oscar very clearly say, apologizing, "Is everybody okay? Oscar, is everything okay? I apologize." I don't know what happened, how the gun went off, but he did apologize and say, "I'm so sorry, it was a mistake. Are you okay? Is everybody okay?" We all said it. I remember I was fine. I was just obviously shocked by the gun, the bang of the shot.
What else was said?
What else was said before anybody came to the table? I do remember Oscar saying, "Please," to Darren, just say it was you. I don't want any tension around me. Just say it was you. And then once that was said, the people from the restaurant came to the table, and then that's when Darren said it was him.
So the accused said to Darren the words that, what can you remember? What it is?
Well, don't quote me, Darren, but I remember he said, "Please take the blame for me. There's too much media hype around me. Just take the blame for me." And Darren Fresco, when the restaurant owners or manager came up, Darren took the blame. I'm saying vague, you can't quote me word for word, but along those lines.
Okay. And what happened thereafter?
We paid the bill. Obviously, the restaurant owners and that came up. The story that Darren discussed with them, I'll be honest, I was in complete shock, so I don't know exactly word for word what Darren discussed with them. But the bill was paid and we left, and I never spoke about it again. I don't know if Oscar did, I don't know if Darren did, but I never spoke about it again. The only reason I knew about this was after the 14th of February, I fought on the 16th. When I woke up the Sunday morning after my fight, I had over 100 missed calls on my cell phone from countries around the world, the newspapers here saying about the Tasha's incident. So I never discussed anything after this. For me, after I got up from that table, I never repeated it to anyone. I didn't say what had happened. I just got woken up to cause that the story had been told. And basically what was saying in the stories was Oscar shot me in the leg. That's when I stood up for myself and I went back to the media to protect my career, and I said, that's nonsense because I wasn't shot.
Okay.
Over newspapers in the UK saying Oscar shoots his power. That wasn't true. So that's why I came forward and said, that's nonsense. I was not shot.
Okay. And you gave your version to the police?
I gave my version to the police once I got called. They called me to, obviously people had spoken about who was at the restaurant. So once the police called me, they told me, I can't remember the policeman's name, but you have to meet him, you have to discuss the scene. And then I met with him.
Thank you. I have nothing further, Malek.
Yes, Mr. Roo?
Lady, I really apologize. We were unaware that this witness would be called. Now, of course, we have prepared in all the statements, but I just need a little bit of time of discussion. On the other hand, I may ask Mr. Oldwich to do the cross-examination because I don't know if I want to cross-examine a boxer, my lady. That may not be good. But no, on a serious note, my lady, we just need a short time to, we didn't know it would be coming.
Yes. So what do you want me to do?
Lady, I'm really in your hands. I don't know what the time is, but I see it's 12:05. We can maybe come back for a short term before lunchtime.
Yes.
Or we can adjourn till 2 o'clock. I'm really in your hands.
Well, it depends what you need. I can't give you something.
Can we go to 2, my lady? We did not know the witness was going to give evidence. We
Please.
received different names of witnesses and we got caught by surprise. We have prepared on the witness, but we need to go through the notes.
Please.
If it can be at 2 o'clock, my lady.
2 o'clock.
Thank you, my lady.
Okay. Before we adjourn, I'd like to see counsel in my chambers. No, after the adjournment. Thank you.
Thank you.
Court will adjourn.
Just a sec. I just want to double check something. Okay, so that only came back the next day then. Interesting.
Mr. Johnson, you're still under oath?
Yes, my lady.
Thank you. Yes, Mr. Roo.
Thank you, my lady.
Sorry, one sec. I'm pretty sure that there was a third video on that day. Just give me 1 minute to quickly check my master playlist. I actually have like 5 playlists for this trial because it was a bit scattered. Yeah, they did come back the next day only. Okay.
Mr. Johnson, I last time you were here, I dealt with aspects in your evidence that, according to what I put to you, were very, very similar to the evidence of your wife. You remember that?
Yes, my lady, I remember.
Yes. And I also asked questions about the contamination of your evidence because of her evidence. You remember that?
My lady, I do remember.
I had occasion to look at your evidence in that respect. And I want to read something to you. And my lady, I think that record is not yet available, but it's a very short passage. I will make it available, not to interfere with the official transcript, but I will be at pains to read it absolutely accurately. It's very small. And that is, when I asked you about this coincidence of your evidence being so similar to hers, notwithstanding the fact that those aspects were not contained in your statements. You said the following, and I want you to listen very carefully, and if you want, I will repeat it to you. When I asked you if you could describe that to coincidence, you said, my lady, I don't think it is coincidence. My wife testified she's been an aerobics instructor for close to 20 years, a part-time hobby, so she counts rhythms and numbers, and you carried on. You remember? It is that first part of your sentence. My wife testified, and you were right. That was her testimony. It was not in her statement, not in your statement. And I didn't pick it up. But you said, my wife testified. Can you explain that, please?
My lady, as I explained yesterday, after the incident, before we made any notes or any statements to the police officers, we obviously discussed what we had witnessed or what we had observed that evening. And with both of us being analytical persons or people, we wondered, why did she remember the number of shots? And that's what I explained yesterday. And at that point, in the first days after the incident, we had come to that conclusion. That is why she, based on her aerobics experience and piano music background, she counted consciously or subconsciously, and that was our conclusion. So I've been aware of that opinion, shared opinion, if you like, since before we even made the first statement. So if I then said, like Advocate Cruz said, my wife testified, I can't explain why I said that. I stated again that I did not hear her testimony. We did not discuss her testimony in court.
You are satisfied with your answer?
I'm satisfied with my answer.
I've dealt with this. It's on record. I'm not going back what was in evidence and so on. Let's move on. I'm also going to ask you, and I put it to you, because I did so when I asked questions, put questions to your wife, that there is a striking similarity, between your statement and her statement made to Captain van Aert.
My lady, attention,
after the police
it's a subjective perception. That is correct, and I can.
Repeat the same question.
I'm not sure. That question was not.
She repeated her version that morning of the event on the telephone before I informed her that Mr. Oscar Pistorius was involved. I'm not, and I want to say that again, I'm not aware of the content of her testimony. I've never read her notes, and I've never read her affidavit or statement that was made to Captain Van Aert.
What I'm putting to you, and I'm going to put it again, what you referred to, where you said her version was the same.
Lady, I object. We've now asked that question over and over and over again, milady. That happens. If you ask a question once or twice, that's fine. I haven't counted, but it's at least 4 or 5 times. That the same question's been answered by this witness. His answer will not change. Milady, we have to move on to other questions. We can't keep the witnesses here and repeat the same question.
I'm not sure. That question was not even finished. How do you know it's the same question?
Then I'll just wait with my objection. I apologize.
Yes, thank you, my lady. That's something else. I was putting something to you. I put it to you that the reference to her version was the same as explained above. Was this your version that you explained above? There's only one version that you explained above. That's what it says.
My lady, can I please just clarify? Ms. Advocate who keeps on referring to her version. Which version is he referring to?
Mr. Johnson, I'm now going to show to you why I put it to you so desperate to extricate your wife from this. Let's go to the first page. And that is what it's all about. That's why you desperately want to move away from this. Go to the first page. The second last paragraph. Please read that into the record.
I did not count the number of shots that were fired, but my wife recalls about 4 or 5 shots.
Let's stop there. It has 2 elements. The first one is about you. I did not count the number of shots that were fired. Let's stop there. Is that true?
My lady, if my memory serves me correctly, I did testify that in my initial testimony. And if I recall correctly, it's also verified in my statement to Captain Van Aert.
Not a sign of 5 to 6 shots. Nothing. No reference to 5 to 6 shots in this. In this note of yours, it is clear I did not count the number of shots that were fired. There is no reference to 5 to 6 shots. Do you agree?
I agree, my lady.
Then the second part. But my wife, and granted, before I read it, you revisited this an hour or 2 later, and you slightly changed that. And I will deal with the change. But this is the important part. But my wife recalls about 4 or 5 shots. Is that your words?
My lady, that is what I've written.
Yes.
Yes.
And that is so removed from this musical talent to count shots, like in music, exact 4. It is not the same.
My lady, as I've mentioned before, I created these notes as a recollection for myself, as notes. I can't, how can I put this? It's the accuracy of this. I mean, I'm being questioned here with a very strong line of questioning on something that I wrote while I was at the office, probably supposed to be doing other work. So it's a rough guideline. That's what my intentions were. If I may, can we refer to my? He then
answer to this is.
Lady, may I please continue?
You're welcome. Since about 175, 180 meters.
But out on the balcony, I heard the shot. I believe that a lady, I'll take you through, called me back into the bedroom and that there were 4 shots.
That caused the inability. When you were standing on a balcony, to know the number of what you call shots.
My lady, I'm not sure if I understand Mr. Roos' question.
Inside of it.
Lady, I want to object to the vagueness and the wideness of the question. It's counsel saying that at all times that this witness heard the screams. She was in the toilet. Is that the
Before we proceed, once more, I find it necessary to address the media. It may be you, it may not be you. Someone used a flashlight during the cross-examination of Mr. Johnson. You know, there is an order in place that no flashlight should be used in court. So I'm not going to try to go on a witch hunt. I am going to ask the relevant people to investigate. So I give an order that this be investigated so that we should know what is going on. Mr. Johnson, you're still under oath?
Yes, my lady.
Yes, Mr.
Thank you, my lady. Mr. Johnson, I just have the date and exact time because you asked about when you sent your note to Advocate Maritz. It was 6 March 2013 at 14:49. Would that accord with your knowledge?
That sounds accurate, my lady.
Thank you, my lady. I have no further questions.
This would be this. Mr. Johnson, it was now put to you that you and your wife, after she gave evidence, that you two then came together and spoke about her version, and that assisted you in your evidence. That's how you understood it. Is that correct? By Mr. Roux.
I understood, my lady, that was the allegation.
Okay. So then you referred us to this statement, Exhibit 03. Do you have it in front of you?
Is it this one?
It's the third version of that statement. It's 03. Now, Mr. Roux pointed to 2 or 3 things. I'm going to point to 21 things where you can now, because of the allegations of recent fabrication, we can now corroborate yourself. 21. So we go through it with me.
Please do.
It indicates where you live. You still live there, and that was your evidence. We live in the Silver Stream estate, which borders on the Silverwood estate. Is that correct?
That is correct, my lady.
Good. Number 1. Number 2. Our house is built on the perimeter stand located on the boundary of Silver Stream and Silverwood's estate. Is that still so?
Absolutely, my lady.
And is it still your evidence? Was it your evidence?
Yes, my lady.
That's true. Our main bedroom window is approximately 6 meters away from the Silver Stream, Silverwood's boundary wall, and the bedroom window face a northeasterly direction. From a rough calculation based on Google Maps, and what I understand to be Oscar Pistorius' house, our house is approximately 150 to 170 meters from Oscar's house. That was your evidence. That was your evidence.
That is correct, my lady. Informed of what happened, what the incident was, that Mr. Oscar Pistorius was involved, was after Mr. Willem Vos returned my phone call and informed me what had happened. And it was also subsequently confirmed by a colleague of mine who had read the first internet report. I then proceeded to call my wife and inform her of what I've heard.
Did you tell, I couldn't hear. Did you tell her during that call?
Yes, at the end of the call that I informed her what I had heard.
At the end of the call, you told.
This is the courthouse you're seeing. Wait, did that actually come through? I don't know if I was muted for that, but this is the courthouse.
No, not next to us.
Next to the house, opposite us.
Okay. So there are two houses built there.
That's right.
So you said you heard argument, and what did you do? On the 21st of February?
Yes. Well, I stood outside, I heard the arguments. And
Johannesburg shopping center, the incident which is between.
Second, noises. Do you understand what I mean?
I understand what you mean.
So what we know now, and that is what I was at pains to put to them, that they must have been wakened by. We have not a statement. We have statements from the police, from the ballistics, only 4 shots. We have statements by state witnesses telling us about the succession of the shots, how far apart. We have no other statements that after those shots, and not first shots, the real shots.
She was not standing beside me at the railing looking out.
Oh my goodness, friends, there's so much we can skip. So much. And I think am I at the end now? 110. Let's see where RA is. Because we are on Friday the 7th, thankfully. Oh, he's live. So I'm gonna save what's left. And I'm going to just do a skim through and try to get us to the point where the friend comes back. For now, I'm going to portal over to RA, say hello, and then go into lurk mode so I can carry on working. But yeah, we're going to have to speed trial this one, like big time. Thank you for hanging out. If you haven't liked yet, please do. It really helps. And people ask all the time what helps the most. Talking in the comments during the video helps the channel the absolute most, like the best. So I don't care if you not spam, but if you want to send messages about irrelevant things, go for it. All right, I'll see you guys over there. Everybody ready? Here we go. 5, 4, 3, 2.